Amen? Love is never boastful or proud. So understand something. When I'm being prideful, I'm being unloving. When I've got my chest stuck out and I'm full of myself, I'm being unloving. Pride here means to be puffed up. It means being inflated beyond measure. What does pride do to relationships? Well, Proverbs 13:10 says this: arrogance causes nothing but trouble. Think about that. Think about all the relationship problems you've had in your life. It says arrogance causes nothing but trouble. Now, most of the time, we're unaware of how destructive pride is in a relationship. We think the problem is this. It's something else. But the real problem is pride. And the Bible says that pride causes 4 problems in relationships. Are you ready? Write these down. 4 problems pride causes in relationships. Number 1, it produces misunderstanding. Pride produces misunderstanding. You see, when I think I know it all, I don't need to listen to you. Come on, somebody help me this morning. When I think I know it all, I don't need to listen to you. I don't need to listen to my spouse. I don't need to listen to my kids. I know what my wife's going to say before she even says it, according to my pride. I don't need to listen to my kids. I don't need to listen to my boss. I've already got it figured out. Pride causes us to presume, to prejudge, to jump to conclusions. As a result, we have misunderstanding. I like what Jesus said in Matthew 7, verse 5. He said, take the log out of your own eye first, and then you'll be able to see and take the speck out of your brother's eye. Have you ever heard anybody say, man, love is blind? That's a lie. Love is not blind. Pride is blind. You know why I say that? Because pride blinds you to your own faults. Pride blinds you to what's going on in your own life. That's what pride does. When I have pride in my life, I can't see my own faults. So how in the world can I help you deal with yours? Pride, it causes misunderstanding. Here's the second thing pride does. It provokes arguments. Pride provokes arguments. It causes sparks to fly. When ego bumps against ego, there's conflict. When I'm full of pride, I resent nothing more than pride in your life. So here are 2 people. I'm full of myself. You're full of yourself. Oh, we're going to bump sales. Amen. Muhammad Ali was flying on a jet one time, and the flight attendant told him to buckle up his seatbelt. Ali said, as only Ali can, Superman don't need a seatbelt. Flight attendant said, Superman don't need an airplane either. Buckle up. Pride. Galatians 5:26 says this: let us not be ambitious for our own reputation, for that only means making each other jealous. Wow. So when you're out there bragging and boasting, it does not impress people. The Bible says it kind of makes some of them jealous. See, the person who has the right to boast doesn't need to. Greatness is his own advertisement. Okay? It speaks for itself. When a later on famous Hollywood actor made his first few movies, he went to one of the exclusive restaurants in Beverly Hills. He wanted to sit in his reserved section, his special section, but they said it was full and he would have to wait. Well, his friend with them said, why don't you tell them who you are? This actor said, if I have to tell them who I am, then I ain't. Hello? If I have to tell somebody who I am, then I ain't. If you got to go out and promote yourself, then you're trying to promote something you really aren't. Wow. Greatness is its own advertising. The problem is when we brag, it causes the exact opposite of what we hope to happen. When I tell them this is really going to impress them, I'm going to wow everybody, they're saying, I'm not wowed, you are an insecure jerk. I can't stand to be around people who brag, do you? Because I'm thinking you're not all that on a bag of chips, you're a jerk. And you're insecure. No, folks, humility works. Being open and transparent and honest. Little Fred, when he was a boy, he ain't gonna remember this story. He used to go around. I used to be a very popular preacher, by the way.
All right.
I'm not being prideful, I'm not bragging.
All right.
In the Church of Christ, I used to be real popular. Used to have to go all over the country all the time. I would take my family with me most of the time. And little Fred would go around saying, I'm Fred McClure's son. I'm Fred McClure's son. Well, Marilyn thought that was kind of cocky and snobbish. So she told him, she said, look, Fred, don't go around saying you're Fred McClure's son. Just say, I'm Fred McClure. A few days later, the guy said, aren't you Fred McClure's son? He said, I thought I was, but Mom said I ain't. Now we got to get a blood test and everything. I'm just saying. Bragging always gets you into trouble. Always. Look at Proverbs 10:13. It says, pride only breeds quarrels. Look at that. It only breeds quarrels. It only causes arguments. You could probably find a good example of that one this week. All quarrels start with ego hitting ego. Yes. That's what's going on here. So don't do it. Here's another thing it does. Pride does. Number 3, pride, husbands and wives, pride prevents intimacy. It prevents intimacy. See, you cannot get close to prideful people. They build walls around themselves. Lady I talked to one time said she's been married for 30 years and she still doesn't know her husband. She said, I still don't know what he really feels, what he really thinks. He won't let me get close. See, fear of rejection, I believe, is behind most pride. That's the real issue. See, if you knew the real me, you might not like me, and I'm all I got. So I'm going to build up this wall. We hide. We hide our faults. We hide our fears. We hide our feelings. We play ego games with people to keep them at a distance so they don't get close. And so my pride causes me to be aloof. It causes me to be superficial, even in my marriage. If I let down the wall, you might figure out what I'm like, and you might not like me anymore. It's that fear of rejection, and it prevents intimacy. But listen to what John says in 1 John. He says, if we walk in the light, we have fellowship with each other. But if we claim to be without sin, we deceive ourselves. Now, when you have a spotlight on you, it's not too flattering. When we walk in the light, we are seen as we are, warts and all. You're totally honest now. Then you have fellowship, he says. Then you have intimacy. But if we put up a big wall and a pride wall, I don't have any problem. Everything's fine with me. Nothing wrong in my house. Nothing wrong in my marriage. I'm going to pretend everything's okay. It says we are only deceiving ourselves. We're living in a world of illusion, and it prevents intimacy. Pride causes us to play games with people, ego games. But you cannot really love somebody without being vulnerable. It's impossible. Humility creates intimacy. Pride destroys it. Well, let me tell you a fourth thing pride does. And this is probably the biggest one of all. Pride postpones reconciliation. It postpones reconciliation. When there's something wrong between me and another person, we don't get it right because I'm full of pride, or they're full of pride, or we both are. Huh? Somebody said temper gets us into trouble, but pride keeps us there. Let me say that one again. Temper or stupidity gets us into trouble, but pride keeps us there. Have you ever done something wrong in your family or with your child, or your husband, or your wife, or girlfriend, or boyfriend? You know it was stupid. You said something that was stupid, it was wrong, but you couldn't bring yourself to admit it. Anybody ever done that? Oh, I'm not the only one. And you keep postponing and postponing, and so now you're in the doghouse, or you're sleeping on the couch, because you said, oh, I was wrong. I messed up. I blew it. What I said, I won't admit it. Oh, my goodness. Keep postponing. Men, fathers, we have to model what it means to seek reconciliation. You know, we need to be able to say those words, I was wrong. Yes. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Because the Bible says, if you don't do that, you'll never be successful in life. Wow. Let me show you that verse in Proverbs 28:13. It says, a man who refuses to admit his mistakes can never be successful. Wow. But if he confesses and forsakes them, he gets another chance. What a beautiful verse. There's so many families I know who are living in unresolved conflict year after year simply because of ego and pride. Refusing to admit, baby, I was wrong. I was wrong. Refusing to say I'm sorry. Or refusing to offer forgiveness. Yeah. And so they live in unresolved conflict. Back in the, I think it was the 70s, before some of your time. But there was a movie, maybe you've heard this movie called The Love Story. And it was a pretty good movie. You can look it up on Netflix or something when you get a chance. It's called The Love Story. And it was starring Ryan O'Neal and Ally McClure. But here was the theme of the movie. Love means never having to say you're sorry. I grew up believing that. Love means never having to say you're sorry. That's a bunch of baloney. Yes. Pride means never having to say you're sorry. Because love says I'm sorry all the time. Yes. Love knows. Pride doesn't. They didn't understand love at all. That was a love story, not a love story. Pride means never having to say you're sorry. Pride means I'm not going to admit it when I'm wrong. But love says I'm sorry, I was wrong. A man who refuses to admit this can never be successful. Somebody says swallowing your pride may be distasteful, but it's non-fattening. Y'all try to put that on your diet, all right? You can eat humble pie and it may not taste good, but there are no calories in it. Right. It's nutritious for your character, learning how to swallow your pride. The point I want to make is this. Pride destroys relationships. It produces misunderstanding. It provokes arguments. It prevents intimacy. It postpones reconciliation. So we need to talk about the antidote to ego and pride. So let me give you 3 ways. If you struggle with pride in your relationships and you've experienced the problems that I've talked about, let me give you 3 ways to overcome, to combat egotism and pride in your relationships. Let me give you 3 ways. Number 1. First thing you need to do is accept my humanity. Accept my humanity. In other words, admit I'm not perfect at all. I don't have it all together. Listen, folks, we all have faults and foibles, and we all make blunders and mistakes. The Bible tells us there's not a single man on this earth without sin. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. And the Bible says if we say we haven't sinned, we lie and deceive ourselves, and the truth is not in us. We're all imperfect. Nobody bats 100 all the time. Nobody has a 100% clear conscience. We're all toe up from the floor up. Some of us just don't know it. The rest of us do. We make mistakes. So look at this verse in Romans 12, verse 3. Here's what Paul said. Some of you need to put this over your refrigerator, since that's the door you open most. He says, don't cherish exaggerated ideas of yourself or importance, but try to have a sane estimate of your capability. Circle sane estimate. God says, I want you to have a realistic appraisal of your own life. A sane estimate. What does that mean? It means to see yourself as God sees you. The good, the bad, the ugly. See, all of us are a bundle of both strengths and weaknesses. The definition of humility is being realistic about your strengths and honest about your weaknesses. That's what it means to be humble. That's emotional balance. We usually overestimate one or the other or both. We need to accept our humanity. Look at Proverbs 20, verse 9. It says, who can say, I have kept my heart pure? I am clean and without sin. Who can say that? That's just another way of saying we've all made mistakes. So it says, have a sane estimate. Don't try to think or pretend you're perfect and you got it together in every area of your life. You don't. Amen. Accept that. Don't try to be something or someone you're not. I heard a story about a congressman, a newly elected congressman. He just won the election, and he went into his new office on Capitol Hill, and the only thing in his office was a desk and a telephone. So he sat down, and a few minutes later, a reporter walked in. He thought, man, I better look busy. I better look important. And so he picked up the phone, and he began to talk. Yes, Mr. President, I'm glad you were able to use my plan to help in terrorism. Thank you, Mr. President. Don't give me credit, Mr. President. I don't deserve any credit at all. Just don't do it publicly. Just knowing my plan helps save thousands of lives is good enough for me. He hangs up the phone, then says to the man who walked in his office, he says, now what can I do for you? Man said, I'm just here to install your telephone. Some of y'all will get that to you on your way home. That's all right. Pride will get you into trouble. Humanity and humility go together. And so life is one long lesson in humility. The fact is, folks, you want to have great relationships? Being authentic is what impresses people. When you're around folks, you say, hey, what you see is what you get. Amen. Boasting impresses nobody. But when you're transparent, when you're real, man, how bad you are. When you're real, when you are genuine, that's extremely attractive to other folks. We want to be around folks. We say, now, she's real. He's real. If you're out there single and you're looking for a future husband or wife, try being authentic. Try being real rather than wearing a mask. Masks never attract anybody except other folks who wear masks. That's all it does. But by being authentic, you attract people to yourself. Because there's so few authentic people in the world. So get that down. Accept my humanity. That's going to help me with my ego. Then number 2, we recognize God's grace. Recognize God's grace. Now this is an ego buster for real. Recognizing God's grace. That means I have nothing if it weren't for God. Amen. I don't care what you have. What you have accomplished, you wouldn't have anything if not for God. Absolutely nothing. My life, my job, my career, my fine, beautiful wife, my beautiful grace, I would have nothing if not for God. 1 Corinthians 4:7, the Living Bible says this. He said, what are you so pumped up about? That's another way. Why are you so proud? He says, what do you have? Now, as I read this, ask yourself these questions. What do you have that God hasn't given you? Name one thing you have God hasn't given you. Huh? If all you have is from God, why act as though you've accomplished something on your own? Every now and then you hear somebody say, I'm a self-made man. There are no self-made men. Everything you have, everything you are, is because of God. Who do you think gave you your mind? Who gave you your hands? Who gave you your intelligence? Who allowed you to be born in America? And I still say it's the greatest country in the world, with all of its problems. Who allowed, I would rather be here than in Mogadishu. Who allowed you to be born here? God. Who allowed you to live where you live? Did you choose your natural gifts and abilities? No, God gave it to you. Did you choose to be born? No, God did. God allowed thee. Everything you have, you owe to God. Every good and perfect gift comes from God. Amen. That's a good humility reminder. It's not me at all. It's not about me. It's what God's doing in and through me. So you need to recognize God's grace. If I recognize God's grace, I won't be walking around like this. Look at me. I'm somebody. Look at what I've done. Look at what I've accomplished. And that kind of attitude just destroys relationships. It's not very loving. Everything I am, God, I owe it to you. Yes. So God, I thank you for my family. Yes. I thank you for my car. I thank you for my house. I thank you for my gifts. I thank you for my children. I thank you just everything, God, because I would not have it if not for you. And then number 3. If I want to overcome ego and pride, experience God's unconditional love. Experience God's unconditional love. Now, this is the last one. How is that an antidote to pride? Well, truck drivers tell us that an empty truck makes the most noise on the freeway. Stay with me. An empty truck makes the most noise on the freeway. A drum makes noise because it's empty on the inside. If you fill it up, it would make half the noise. Egotism and pride indicates emptiness on the inside. A vain person is empty at the core of their life. And so they feel this need to make a lot of noise by boasting and bragging. I got a friend, oh, I can't say it on video.
Say it. Say it. Say that.
I'll just say they're empty on the inside. Whenever you find somebody who boasts and brags all the time about who they are, what they got, their family, this and that, they're empty on the inside. The greater the void, the greater the boasting. What causes me to brag is an attempt to look good on the outside when I know I'm crap on the inside. Pardon the expression. That's what it is. So we're putting up a big front to look good. We suspect that people really won't care about us if they aren't shrewd enough to see our assets. So we think we better tell them. I better tell them how great I am. I used to get mad when I walk in the house. I'm doing some great things. And Marilyn and the kids with me there waiting on me singing, How Great Thou Art. Pride. But emptiness on the inside. Now what's the alternative to that? That emptiness on the inside. Ephesians 3:18. Look at this verse. Ephesians 3:18. It says, may you be able to feel and understand how long, how wide, how deep, and how high God's love really is, and to experience this love for yourselves. Why? So at last you will be filled up with God Himself. Folks, when you're filled with God's love, you experience unconditional love for the first time. Now, I know many folks, many times they're Christians, many are Christians and maybe been Christians for a long time, but have never really experienced God's love. You know about it, intellectually, you believe it, but you never really felt love unconditionally by God. And so you go out and you work, you try to perform, and so God will like you, so God will love you, try to prove yourself. You do these good things, now God, look at me, give me credit. You don't really feel unconditionally loved by God. But when you let God fill the emptiness in your life, you no longer need to run around the world trying to validate your worth in front of everybody else. I'm loved by God. Unconditionally. You have no need to be validated by others because you feel love. And when you feel love, it relieves the need to posture yourself. It relieves the need to promote yourself, to present an image, to boast, to brag, to cover up my errors, to cover up my faults and sins, and pretend everything is fine in my life, in my home, my job, career, and everything. When you let God fill that emptiness, you no longer feel the need to drop names, punch a status symbols, or other things that say, look at me, I'm somebody, look at me, I'm important. Because I know I'm loved by God just as I am. Amen. Yeah. See, folks, to me, and I guess because I know me better than anybody knows me, the most amazing truth in the world to me It's the fact that God knows every single detail of my life.
Yes.
Every motive, every thought I've ever thought, every action, things I'm ashamed of, every single thing about my life, and yet he still loves me unconditionally. I can't even begin to comprehend that.
Thank you, Lord.
He would never love me any less than he does right now. And he'll never love me anymore because it's unconditional.
Amen.
He can't. And when you feel love, when you experience God's unconditional love, you're set free from self-promotion. You're set free from the need to feel like I've got to validate my work to other folks. Romans 5:8 says this. The truth of God's amazing love is this. While we were sinning, Christ died for us. You know when Christ died for you? Not when you were doing good deeds. Not when you were feeding the hungry. Not when you were helping folks. No. While you were rebelling. While you saying, I don't want to live for God, but do my own thing. When you turned your back on him. How much does Jesus love you? Picture him on the cross. He says, I love you this much. So how come I can't love my wife the way I ought to? How come I can't love my wife the way I ought to? How come I can't love my husband or my kids or my neighbors the way I know I need to? It's because maybe I don't feel loved myself. That unconditional love. Maybe it's because I've been so busy posturing myself all the time to win the love and affirmation of other people, I don't have any love to give away. There's this big emptiness inside. And there's only one thing that can fill it. And that's the love of God. He's got enough to fill your emptiness and mine and everybody else's too. When you let God fill you with love, it overflows and you got enough to share with other folks. You just let God fill you with love, that love overflows, you just start loving people. You can learn to really love because you get off the ego trip, which is a dead end, and you get on the God trip. And you can just love. The Bible tells us that pride causes nothing but trouble. And let me tell you something else about pride as I close. Pride turns angels into devils. Did you know that? Did you know this guy named Lucifer?
Wow.
Satan? The devil? You know he was in heaven at one time? You know he got kicked out of heaven? Do you know why he got kicked out of heaven? Pride. Somebody been reading about him. Because he was full of pride. That's how serious this thing is. Pride would get you kicked out of heaven. Where you going to go when you get kicked out of heaven? You can go home when you get kicked out the club. You know, you say you ain't got to go home, but you got to get out of here. Where do you go when you get kicked out of heaven? All because he was filled with himself. See, listen, the worst form of pride is spiritual pride. When either you're saying, I don't need God, or I'm my own God. I chart my own direction. I do my own thing. I chart my own path. Is it worth it? No. I mean, God is standing there saying, I love you unconditionally. You saying, forget you, God. I'm going to live my life the way I want to live it. Woo! The worst sin of all. Because God can't do anything with a person who's full of pride. You have to first humble yourself. Listen, folks, God made you and he loves you and he has a plan for your life. I encourage you to do the smartest thing you could ever do. Is humble yourself before God. And give your life to him. And watch the joy and peace and meaning and love fill your life. And watch it overflow to other folks. You learn to love like Jesus loved. Amen?